The small McDonald's in Oakwood, Pennsylvania was having just another ordinary Tuesday. The morning rush had ended, and the afternoon lull left the restaurant quiet except for the hiss of the soda machine and the occasional beat from the fryers. Jenny stood behind the counter, her blue uniform shirt slightly wrinkled after the busy breakfast shift. She was thinking about her upcoming exam and how many more hours she needed to work to cover this month's tuition payment. She glanced at the clock. 2:17 p.m. 4 more hours until her shift ended and she could go home to study. Her feet already hurt, and the smell of French fries had worked its way into her hair as it always did. The door chimed, and Jenny automatically put on her customer service smile without looking up. "Welcome to McDonald's. How can I help?" The words died in her throat as she looked up and saw the unmistakable figure walking through the door. Tall, with that signature hairstyle and dark suit, former President Donald Trump was stepping into her McDonald's. Behind him, serious-looking men in dark suits with earpieces scanned the restaurant. 2 customers at a corner table stopped mid-bite, mouths hanging open. The teenage boy mopping the floor nearby froze, mop dripping soapy water onto his shoes. "Is this place any good?" Trump asked one of his security team loudly. "People say I eat too much fast food, but you know what, I like it. The regular folks eat here, and I'm a regular folks kind of guy, right?" Jenny's manager Tom rushed out from the back office, his eyes wide with panic and excitement. "Mr. President, what an honor. We weren't told, nobody called ahead." "That's how I like it," Trump said, approaching the counter. "No warning. Just drop in, say hello to the people. I'm hungry. Been in meetings all day." Jenny felt like she was dreaming. Her palms were sweaty, and she couldn't seem to remember how to work the cash register she'd been using for 8 months. Secret Service agents positioned themselves around the restaurant, politely asking the handful of customers to remain seated. "What's good here?" Trump asked, looking directly at Jenny. She stammered, "The Quarter Pounder is popular." "I'll take that," he nodded decisively. "With cheese. And a Diet Coke. The biggest one you've got." Jenny punched in the order, her fingers trembling slightly. The other workers in the kitchen had all stopped what they were doing and were peeking through the service window. One was holding up a phone, clearly recording the moment. "Will that be all, sir?" Jenny asked, finding her professional voice again. "That's it. Simple meal for a simple man," Trump replied with a wink that made the customers nearby chuckle. Jenny told him the total, and Trump reached into his pocket, pulling out a leather wallet. Instead of the expected 20 or credit card, he slid something across the counter that made Jenny look twice. It was a $2 bill, crisp and new-looking, unlike the 1 singles and 5s she usually handled. "Don't see these much anymore, do you?" Trump asked, tapping the bill with his finger. "I keep a few around. They're special. Underappreciated, like a lot of good things in America." Jenny picked up the bill carefully. She'd only seen a $2 bill once before, when her grandfather had given her one for her 10th birthday. He'd told her to save it for luck. "Is this real?" she asked before she could stop herself. Trump laughed, a genuine laugh that made the corners of his eyes crinkle. "Of course it's real. Been printing them since Thomas Jefferson was on the scene. People think they're fake because they're rare. But rare doesn't mean fake, just special." Jenny nodded and carefully placed the bill in the register, making sure to put it under the tray where it wouldn't get mixed with the regular cash. Something told her this bill might be worth keeping separate. What she didn't notice was how intently Trump watched her handle the money, or the slight nod he gave to one of his security team. Later, she would wonder if everything that followed had been set in motion in that simple exchange. A $2 bill passed from the hands of a former president to a college student just trying to make ends meet. Jenny couldn't stop looking at the $2 bill as she handed Trump his receipt. The bill looked different from regular money. The design was older, more detailed, with Thomas Jefferson's face staring back at her. Trump stood to the side, waiting for his order while his security team kept watchful eyes on everyone in the restaurant. "First time seeing a $2 bill?" Trump asked, noticing her interest. "Almost," Jenny replied. "My grandpa gave me one for my birthday years ago, but I lost it during a move." Trump nodded knowingly. "People think they're collector's items, but the government still prints them, just not many. I like things that are unique, stand out from the crowd." He leaned in a bit. "Between you and me, I think they're lucky. Every time I use one, something interesting happens. Jenny smiled politely, not sure if he was serious. The kitchen staff worked faster than she'd ever seen them move before. Within minutes, a tray with a perfectly assembled quarter-pounder and a large Diet Coke appeared on the counter. "Order for the president," called out Pete, the cook who usually took his sweet time with every order. Trump took the tray, but before heading to a table, he pointed at the $2 bill in the register. "Take good care of that. You never know what might come from unexpected places." Jenny nodded, thinking it was just small talk. But something in his eyes made her wonder if he meant something more. As Trump sat down at a booth in the corner, surrounded by his security detail, the restaurant began filling up. Word had spread quickly through town. People were coming in, ordering small items just to catch a glimpse of the former president eating a burger like a regular person. Jenny worked through the sudden rush, but she kept glancing at Trump. He seemed to enjoy the attention, waving to folks, even posing for a few selfies with customers brave enough to approach his security team. When her manager wasn't looking, Jenny carefully removed the $2 bill from the register and slipped it into her pocket, replacing it with $2 from her own wallet. She couldn't explain why, but something told her to hold on to it. During a brief lull, she took a closer look at the bill under the counter. That's when she noticed something odd, tiny blue numbers written along the edge, so small you'd miss them if you weren't looking carefully. They weren't printed. Someone had written them with a fine-tipped pen. "What's that?" asked Lally, another cashier who had just clocked in for her shift. Jenny quickly folded the bill. "Nothing. Just a $2 bill someone paid with." "Those are supposed to be lucky," Lally said. "My uncle collects them." Trump finished his meal and stood up, drawing everyone's attention again. He walked to the trash can, disposed of his wrappers, and then approached the counter one more time. "Good burger," he said to Jenny with a thumbs up. "Just what I needed." "Glad you enjoyed it, sir," Jenny replied, suddenly very aware of the bill in her pocket. Did he know she'd taken it? Was she going to get in trouble? Trump leaned in slightly. "Remember what I said about that bill?" Before Jenny could respond, a commotion at the door drew everyone's attention. A local news crew had arrived, cameras ready. Trump turned toward them with a wave, and the restaurant erupted in excitement. In the chaos that followed, Jenny touched the pocket where she'd stashed the $2 bill. The numbers along its edge seemed to burn through the fabric. 7 digits that looked like they could be coordinates or a code of some kind. As Trump gave an impromptu interview by the door, one of his security team members passed by Jenny's register. Without breaking stride, he whispered, "Check the north edge," and continued walking as if he'd said nothing at all. Jenny's heart raced. The north edge of what? The bill? The town? And why had Trump really come to this small McDonald's in the middle of nowhere? As the crowd pressed forward to hear Trump speak, Jenny knew one thing for certain. This was no ordinary $2 bill, and this was no random visit. The rest of her shift passed in a blur, her mind filled with questions about what might happen next and what secret she now held in her pocket. Jenny couldn't sleep that night. The $2 bill sat on her nightstand, those tiny blue numbers catching the moonlight through her bedroom window. She'd looked them up online, but found nothing that made sense. Not a phone number, not a date. What did they mean? Her phone buzzed at 6:30 a.m. A text from her roommate Lisa. "Were you famous?" Attached was a video link. Jenny clicked it with sleepy fingers and nearly dropped her phone when she saw herself on the screen. Someone had recorded Trump handing her the $2 bill. The video already had over 2 million views. "Oh no," she whispered, scrolling through the comments. Why did she look at that bill so weird? Trump giving secret messages through cash now. That cashier definitely pocketed that bill. Jenny's heart raced. How did they know she'd kept it? The camera angle shouldn't have shown that. Her phone rang. It was Tom, her manager. "Jenny, have you seen the video? The owner is going crazy. Corporate called. They love the publicity. They want you to come in early for an interview with Channel 7 News." Interview? Jenny's throat went dry. "I don't want to be on TV, Tom." Too late. You're already on every social media platform. The hashtag McDonald's mystery is trending. People are making up all kinds of stories about why Trump gave you that $2 bill. Jenny hung up and buried her face in her pillow. She just wanted to finish college without debt, not become internet famous. Her phone kept buzzing with notifications. Friends, family, even professors texting to ask if that was really her in the video. By afternoon, 3 news vans were parked outside her apartment building. Jenny peeked through the blinds, watching reporters stand in the cold, waiting for her to emerge. "This is insane," she muttered, closing the blinds. She picked up the $2 bill again and studied those mysterious numbers. Something about them seemed familiar, but she couldn't place it. Her laptop chimed with an incoming email. Unknown sender. Subject line: The $2 bill truth. Against her better judgment, Jenny opened it. The numbers are coordinates. He chose you for a reason. Trust no one who asks about the bill. No signature. Jenny's fingers trembled as she typed the numbers into a map search. The result showed a location about 40 minutes outside town, an area with a few old farms and not much else. Her phone rang again. Unknown number, she answered cautiously. "Hello. Is this Jenny Martinez?" A man's voice, unfamiliar. "Who's asking?" "My name is Robert Thompson, Department of Treasury. We understand you received a $2 bill from former President Trump yesterday." Jenny's grip tightened on the phone. Lots of people use $2 bills. Not like this one. We have reason to believe this particular bill is part of an investigation. We need you to turn it in immediately. The email warning flashed in her mind. Trust no one who asks about the bill. "I'm sorry, but I don't have it anymore," she lied. "I put it in the register like any other bill." Silence on the other end. "Then, Miss Martinez, obstructing a federal investigation is a serious offense." "I'm not obstructing anything. I just don't have the bill. Now if you'll excuse me, I have class in 20 minutes. She hung up, heart hammering against her ribs. Was that really the Treasury Department? If so, why would they care about a $2 bill? And how did they get her number? Jenny grabbed her backpack and the bill, which she carefully placed in a small zippered pocket. She couldn't stay in her apartment with reporters outside. Through her back window, she saw a fire escape that led to the alley. It wasn't ideal, but it would work. As she climbed down, her phone buzzed with a text from another unknown number. Good choice not trusting the caller. "Meet at the coordinates tomorrow at noon if you want answers. Come alone." Jenny jumped the last few feet to the ground, landing in a puddle that soaked her shoes. What had started as a strange encounter with a former president had turned into something that felt dangerous and much bigger than her. Part of her wanted to throw the bill away and forget the whole thing. But a stronger part, the curious part that had always gotten her into trouble as a kid, wanted to know what was so special about this $2 bill and why, out of everyone in the world, Trump had given it to her. She pulled her hood up and walked quickly down the alley, away from the news vans. Tomorrow at noon, she would get some answers. She just had to avoid attention until then. Jenny spent the night at her friend Tina's apartment, away from the reporters. She barely slept, checking her phone every hour and jumping at every sound. By morning, the viral video had over 10 million views. News programs were discussing the McDonald's mystery and speculating about why Trump had given her that specific $2 bill. "You really should turn that thing in," Tina said over coffee. "Whatever's going on, it's bigger than you." Jenny nodded but didn't answer. She'd already decided to visit the coordinates. Maybe it was foolish, but she needed to know. She borrowed Tina's beat-up Honda and punched the numbers into the GPS. The location was an old farm property outside town, down a dirt road most locals had forgotten existed. As she drove, Jenny kept checking her rearview mirror. Was that the same blue sedan she'd seen 3 turns ago? She made a sudden right turn. The blue car continued straight ahead, just her imagination running wild. The GPS led her deeper into the countryside. Cell service dropped to 1 bar, then none. Fields gave way to woods, and the road narrowed until it was barely wide enough for the car. Jenny gripped the steering wheel tighter. "This is crazy," she muttered to herself. "I'm driving to the middle of nowhere because of some numbers on a $2 bill. What am I doing?" The road ended at a rusty gate. Beyond it stood an old farmhouse with peeling white paint and shuttered windows. A faded sign read Oak Ridge Farm, private property. Jenny checked the time, 11:52 a.m. She was early. She sat in the car, engine running, finger hovering over the ignition. She could still turn around, go back to her normal life, try to wait out the media frenzy until something else caught their attention. But that treasury guy had called her. Someone had emailed her specifically about the bill. This wasn't just internet hype. Something real was happening. Jenny turned off the engine and got out. The air smelled of pine and damp earth. Birds called in the distance. It was peaceful here, which somehow made it all the more eerie. She approached the gate cautiously. A heavy chain and padlock secured it, both looking relatively new compared to the rusty gate. "Hello," she called out. No answer. Jenny walked along the fence line, looking for another way in. About 50 yards down, she found a section where the wire had been cut and bent back. Recent footprints marked the soft ground. Someone had been here recently. Jenny squeezed through the gap and walked toward the farmhouse, her shoes sinking slightly into the muddy ground. Every step felt like a mistake, yet she couldn't turn back. The front door of the farmhouse was locked, but a window on the side had been broken. Jenny peered inside. Dust covered everything, old furniture, picture frames, shelves lined with ancient books. She found another door at the back, unlocked. It creaked open to reveal a kitchen frozen in time, 1950s appliances, faded curtains, a calendar on the wall from 1957. "This is beyond weird," Jenny whispered, her voice sounding too loud in the empty house. She moved from room to room, searching for what, she didn't know. Something connected to the $2 bill. Something worth all this secrecy. In what must have been a study, she found a desk with several drawers. Most were empty, but the bottom one was locked. Unlike everything else in the house, the lock looked new. Jenny tried to pull it open, with no success. She looked around for a key but found nothing. Frustrated, she sat in the dusty chair, accidentally bumping her knee against the underside of the desk. A hollow sound caught her attention. She ran her fingers along the bottom of the desk and felt a small indentation. Pressing it caused a tiny compartment to pop open, revealing an old key. "No way," she breathed. "This can't be real." The key fit the lock drawer perfectly. Inside was a single folder, old yellow paper with Project Greenback stamped across it in faded red letters. Beneath it lay a small metal box, locked and heavy for its size. Jenny opened the folder. Inside were photographs of men in suits gathered around tables covered with maps, technical drawings of what looked like satellite components, and documents filled with text that had been heavily redacted with black marker. Only a few phrases remained visible: orbital surveillance, financial tracking system, and embedded in plain sight. The last page contained a handwritten note. "If you're reading this, you've been chosen. The $2 bills have been our silent messengers for decades. The truth about Project Greenback has been hidden from the American people for too long. The key to the box is simple: the serial number on your bill, backwards." Jenny pulled out the $2 bill with trembling hands and read its serial number. Then she carefully entered the digits in reverse order into the small keypad on the metal box that she hadn't noticed before. The box clicked open. The metal box opened with a soft click that echoed in the dusty room. Jenny held her breath as she lifted the lid. Inside wasn't gold or jewels or anything she might have expected. Just a small USB drive, an old-fashioned flip phone, and a yellowed piece of paper folded into thirds. Jenny unfolded the paper first. It was a letter, handwritten in fading blue ink. "To the keeper of the bill. If you're reading this, then our system worked. Since 1976, a select group has used $2 bills to pass information that couldn't travel through official channels. We call ourselves the Jeffersons, after the face on our chosen currency. What you found is the backup of Project Greenback, program started under President Nixon that never officially existed. The USB contains proof of government surveillance systems that were supposedly dismantled decades ago but continue to operate today. The phone has only one number programmed into it. When you're ready, call it. But be absolutely certain before you do. Once you make that call, there's no going back to your old life. Trust no one who didn't come to you through the bill. K." Jenny's hands trembled as she set down the letter. This was crazy. Secret government programs. People passing information through $2 bills. It sounded like something from a spy movie, not real life. Yet here she was, holding actual proof. She picked up the USB drive, turning it over in her palm. Should she look at what was on it? Did she even want to know? A sound from outside made her freeze. Car tires on gravel. Someone was coming. Jenny quickly gathered everything, shoving it all back in the metal box except for the phone, which she slipped into her pocket. She closed the desk drawer and hurried to the window. A black SUV had parked behind Tina's Honda. Two men in dark suits stepped out, scanning the area. They didn't look like reporters. They moved with purpose, one touching his ear as if listening to an earpiece. "Check the house. She's here somewhere," one said, his voice carrying through the quiet air. Jenny's heart pounded. Were these the Treasury guys who'd called her? How had they found her? She needed to get out fast. The back door was too exposed. They'd see her immediately. The front door faced the driveway. No good either. Jenny looked up. The ceiling had a small hatch, probably leading to an attic. It was her only chance. She dragged a chair over as quietly as possible, climbed up, and pushed at the hatch. It resisted at first, then gave way with a shower of dust that made her cough. Jenny pulled herself up just as she heard the back door open. "Someone's been here recently," a man's voice said from below. "Footprints in the dust." The attic was dark except for thin streams of light coming through holes in the roof. Old trunks and boxes lined the walls. At the far end, a small window overlooked the back of the property. Jenny crawled toward it, trying not to make the floorboards creak. Through cracks in the floor, she could see the men searching the rooms below. "The drawer's been opened," one called out. She found it. "Call it in. We need backup." Jenny reached the window and tried to open it. Decades of paint made it stick. She pushed harder, panic giving her strength. With a loud crack, it finally gave way. The sound echoed through the house. Upstairs, check the attic. No time to be careful now. Jenny wriggled through the small window onto a section of sloping roof. It was about a 15-foot drop to the ground, too high to jump safely. She spotted a large oak tree nearby, its branches extending close to the house. If she could reach it. Footsteps pounded below, heading toward the attic hatch. Jenny scooted along the roof edge until she could almost touch the nearest branch. Almost, but not quite. She heard the attic hatch open behind her. It was now or never. Jenny jumped, arms outstretched. Her fingers caught the branch, wood scraping against her palms. For a terrifying moment, she thought she would fall. Then her grip tightened, and she pulled herself onto the branch. She's outside, east side of the house. Jenny climbed down the tree as fast as she could, scraping her arms and legs. The moment her feet hit the ground, she ran, not toward the driveway where they'd see her, but deeper into the property toward the woods she'd seen from the road. The flip phone in her pocket bounced against her leg as she ran. Who would answer if she called? Were they friend or foe? And why had Trump, of all people, chosen her for this? Questions raced through her mind as fast as her feet carried her through the underbrush. One thing was clear, her normal life was over. The moment she'd accepted that $2 bill, everything had changed. Behind her, she heard the men shouting, their voices growing more distant as she disappeared into the thick forest. For now, at least, she'd escaped. But what came next? Jenny ran until her lungs burned. The woods grew thicker, branches scratching her face and arms as she pushed through. When she couldn't run anymore, she ducked behind a fallen tree and tried to catch her breath. The voices of the men were gone now, replaced by the sounds of birds and rustling leaves. She pulled out her regular phone, no signal. Of course, she was in the middle of nowhere. The old flip phone felt heavy in her other pocket. Should she risk turning it on? What if it had some kind of tracker? "Think, Jenny," she whispered to herself. What would Dad say? Her father had always taught her to assess situations before acting. Right now, she needed help, and this phone might be her only way to get it. But she also needed to put distance between herself and those men. Jenny stood up, orienting herself by the position of the sun. If she headed west, she should eventually hit the main road. She walked for what felt like hours, jumping at every snapping twig until the trees began to thin and she spotted a gas station through the branches. Her clothes were dirty, her hair tangled with leaves. She must look crazy. Jenny brushed herself off as best she could before walking toward the station. A middle-aged woman looked up from behind the counter as the bell jingled over the door. "You okay, honey?" Look like you've been through the ringer. My car broke down a few miles back, Jenny lied. Phone's dead. Could I use your bathroom? Help yourself, it's around back. In the tiny bathroom, Jenny splashed water on her face and picked leaves from her hair. The face in the mirror looked different somehow, older, more serious. Had it really been just 2 days since Trump walked into her McDonald's? She pulled out the flip phone, turned it on, and was surprised when it powered up immediately, battery still full. Only one contact, Jefferson. Jenny's finger hovered over the call button. Once she pressed it, there was no going back to being just a college student working at McDonald's to pay tuition. She thought about those men searching the farmhouse. They already knew who she was. Going back to her old life might not be an option anyway. Jenny pressed call. It rang once, twice, then a click. Identify yourself, said a woman's voice, older, authoritative. I'm Jenny, the cashier, from McDonald's. A pause. The bill carrier, where are you now? Gas station, middle of nowhere. Some men were at the farmhouse. They chased me. Listen carefully. Go outside. There's a blue pickup truck parked at the side of the building. The keys are under the floor mat. Take it and drive north on Route 16 for exactly 22 miles. Look for a billboard advertising Carson's Furniture. Turn right on the dirt road just past it. Someone will meet you there. Wait, I can't steal a truck, Jenny protested. It's not stealing, it's ours. Placed there this morning when we realized you'd found the coordinates. Who is we? What is all this about? Another pause. Project Greenback was developed to track every dollar in America, but it evolved into something more dangerous. The proof is on that USB. Former President Trump has been working with us to expose it. Trump? Why would he? Not over the phone. Time is short. They're tracking your regular phone. Leave it at the gas station. Go now. The line went dead. Jenny stood frozen for a moment, mind racing. Then she went to the sink, turned on the water, and dropped her regular phone into it. If they were tracking it, let them track it here. Outside, she spotted the blue pickup exactly where the woman said it would be. Keys under the mat, just as promised. Jenny had never stolen anything in her life, but she climbed in and started the engine. The gas station attendant came outside, looking confused, but Jenny was already pulling onto the road. Route 16 stretched before her, empty and straight. The truck's radio was set to a new station. Mystery deepens as McDonald's cashier Jennifer Martinez remains missing for a second day. Authorities are asking anyone with information to come forward. In related news, former President Trump addressed reporters today regarding the viral video of him handing Martinez a $2 bill. Jenny turned up the volume. I give $2 bills to people all the time, Trump's voice boomed through the speakers. They're underappreciated, like a lot of good things in America. The young woman seemed nice. I hope they find her safe. Next question. He knew. He'd been part of this all along. But why her? Why not give the bill to someone with power or resources? The speedometer crept up as Jenny pressed harder on the gas pedal. 22 miles. An old furniture billboard. A dirt road. Someone waiting. The farmhouse had provided some answers but raised even more questions. What was on that USB drive? How was Trump connected to all this? And most importantly, what did they expect her to do about it? As the miles disappeared beneath her tires, Jenny realized she was driving away from everything she knew. Her apartment, her classes, her job, her friends. All because of a $2 bill that had turned her life upside down. The truck's dashboard clock read 5:17 p.m. Somewhere ahead, someone was waiting with answers. At least, she hoped they had answers, because right now, Jenny felt like she'd stumbled into something much bigger and more dangerous than she could handle alone. The old furniture billboard appeared exactly where the woman had said it would be. Carson's Furniture, making homes comfortable since 1952. The paint was peeling, and the smiling family in the picture had faded to ghostly outlines. Jenny slowed the truck and spotted the dirt road just beyond. It looked barely used, weeds growing up the middle. She turned onto it, the truck bouncing over ruts and holes. About half a mile in, she saw a small cabin nestled among pine trees. Smoke curled from its chimney despite the mild weather. An older model black car was parked outside, no license plate visible. Jenny parked next to it, her hands shaking slightly as she turned off the engine. Was she walking into a trap, or finally about to get answers? Before she could decide whether to get out or drive away, the cabin door opened. A woman stepped onto the porch, tall, with silver hair pulled back in a tight bun. She wore jeans and a flannel shirt, looking more like someone's grandmother than a secret agent. "You can sit in that truck all day, or you can come inside and learn why that $2 bill found its way to you," the woman called out. Jenny got out slowly. "Aren't you Jefferson?" The woman smiled. "That's a code name we all use. My real name is Catherine. I worked in the Treasury Department for 40 years before retiring. At least, that's what my official records say." Inside, the cabin was simple but comfortable. A fire crackled in the stone fireplace. A wooden table held several laptops and stacks of papers. On the wall hung a framed $2 bill. "Sit," Catherine said, pointing to an armchair. "You must have questions." "About $1 million, Jenny replied, sinking into the chair. "Why me? Why did Trump give me that bill?" Catherine sat across from her. "We've been watching you for some time, Jenny. Your thesis paper on banking algorithms caught our attention." Jenny blinked in surprise. "My paper? That was just a college assignment." "One in which you theorized that digital banking systems could be used to track individual spending habits and create predictive models of consumer behavior. You were closer to the truth than you knew." Catherine walked to a small kitchenette and poured 2 cups of coffee, handing one to Jenny. Project Greenback began in the 1970s as a way to track counterfeit bills, but by the 1990s it had evolved. The government installed tiny tracking fibers in all new currency. Every dollar spent could be tracked through a satellite system. Where it went, who had it, what they bought. Jenny's mouth fell open. "That's impossible. People would know." "Would they? Do you examine every bill that passes through your hands? The technology is microscopic now." Catherine typed something on one of the laptops, turning the screen toward Jenny. It showed a map of the United States covered with tiny moving dots. Each dot is a bill being tracked in real time. The system knows who has what money and what they're doing with it. Privacy is an illusion. Jenny leaned forward. "And Trump knows about this. He discovered it during his presidency. Tried to shut it down, but the program is run by career officials who've been there longer than any president. They convinced him it was essential for national security. So why give me the bill? Why not expose this himself?" Catherine's eyes crinkled. "Think about it. If he went public, half the country wouldn't believe him. They'd call it conspiracy theory. But you, a regular person with proof, that's different." She gestured to the USB drive Jenny had pulled from her pocket. "That drive contains evidence of Project Greenback, bank statements, surveillance logs, the names of people who've been targeted using the system. The public deserves to know." Jenny stared at the small device. "You want me to what? Go to the press? I'm just a college student. Which makes you perfect. You're not political. You have no agenda. Just a young woman who stumbled onto the truth." A car door slammed outside. Catherine moved quickly to the window, then relaxed. "He's here." The cabin door opened and Jenny nearly fell out of her chair. Donald Trump walked in without his usual suit, dressed instead in jeans and a dark windbreaker. He looked different somehow, tired, more serious than she'd seen him on TV. "You made it," he said to Jenny. "Good. Not everyone does." "Mr. President," Catherine acknowledged with a nod. Trump sat down heavily in a chair. "Did you explain everything?" "The basics," Catherine replied. Trump looked at Jenny. "I'll cut to the chase. I need your help. We need your help. For decades, they've been using this system to control people. Politicians, judges, business leaders, track their spending, then use it against them. I tried to stop it from the inside. Couldn't. Too many powerful people benefit." Jenny found her voice. "So a $2 bill at McDonald's was your solution?" Trump actually smiled. "Sometimes the simplest plans work best. The $2 bill is the one denomination they don't track. Too rare. The Jeffersons have used them as signals for years. Catherine here recruited me after I left office." He leaned forward. "Tomorrow morning, we're holding a press conference. Independent media only. You'll tell your story, show the evidence. And then what? Jenny asked. Then? Trump shrugged. Then it's up to the American people. Once they know they're being watched, maybe they'll decide they don't like it. Jenny looked back and forth between them. This is crazy. My whole life has been turned upside down because you handed me a $2 bill. Sometimes the smallest things change everything, Catherine said softly. Jenny thought about her normal life. Classes, work, friends. Then she thought about the men who had chased her, the farmhouse, the mysterious tracking system watching everyone's money. If I do this, will I ever get my old life back? Trump exchanged glances with Catherine. No, he said simply. But you'll help millions keep their freedom. Sometimes that's the choice we face. Jenny took a deep breath and looked down at the $2 bill she still carried. Thomas Jefferson's face seemed to stare back at her, challenging her. Okay, she said finally. I'll do it. I'll tell the story. Trump nodded, a look of relief crossing his face. Good, we start tomorrow. As the three of them began planning the press conference, Jenny realized how quickly life could change. 3 days ago, she'd been a cashier handing out change. Now she was about to tell the world that their money was watching them. All because a former president had handed her a $2 bill and winked. Sometimes the smallest things really do change everything.